Hi, I'm Alison Rentoul and I'm here with Captain Stephen on board this 30-metre motor yacht. And today we're just going to talk a little bit about CVs and what process Stephen uses when he's going through masses of piles of CVs and he's looking for candidates, and what it is that would actually help your CV to become successful. So over to you, Stephen. What's the process that you use?
Hello, Alison. Yes. The first thing I would look at would be the photograph to see if the photo is a smart person. The kind of things I would look at would be, if it's not a uniform, then at least a nice clean white blouse or shirt or polo shirt for the guys, a good headshot, a clear picture. I think what a lot of people make the mistake of doing is trying to get shots of boats in. And as a result, they get sun in their eyes, or they've got, believe it or not, sunglasses on. To me, I just want a simple headshot and see that the person's turnout is neat, and that they, their hair is tidy, they've got a nice smile, and that they've obviously got two eyes, and not got an eye in the middle of their head.
Yeah, I quite often suggest that people smile, fully with their mouth open, which sounds a bit sort of strange, but it's so that you can see their teeth, isn't it? Because you do need to know that this person is on show, and they need to look neat and professional. And
yes, of course. I mean, the thing I'm looking for is that these people are going to look smart whilst they're on board. It's not necessary that they've worked on boats before. A smart photo goes a long way. And as far as looking professional goes, I would say we've spoken about this before in the past. I mean, some of the shots I've had, pictures with partners and boyfriends, pictures of people, hugging teddy bears, believe it or not, sat in a bath looking up. I mean, absolutely incredible. All we're really looking for is, I know it's quite a shallow industry, but we're just looking to see that the people are smart, and that they will fit in with the rest of the image of the boat, if you like, if that's the best way of putting it.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's people do sometimes talk about the idea of whether or not everybody has to be good looking, and it isn't necessarily that they have to be sort of model material, but they just have to look neat, don't they?
Entirely. As I said, I mean, it is a human reaction to look at someone's photo and go yes or no before you even read their name or what they're about. But one thing is for sure, if you don't get that right, then you're on a back foot before you start.
Yeah, you're not going to read any further.
Sure.
Okay, so if they pass the photo test, where do you look next? What are you looking for next?
Okay, this I suppose could be a delicate one, but just to explain, I would look at the nationality of the person, where they're from next, and I'll explain why. This is a personal thing, but we run on 5 crew, so it's not a particularly large yacht. We rely on each other. When the boat is doing manoeuvres, when in an emergency situation, the language on the boat is English. We have multinational people on board as crew. I have done in the past. That's not my point. What I'm looking to see is if I can see that someone is from a country where the mother tongue is English, then I can make an assumption as to what the communication skills of that person are going to be. If I see that the person is from another country, then I need to know whether this person has a good grasp on English, because if I say something whilst the boat's being moved and it gets misinterpreted, then that could mean the boat gets crashed. If it's an emergency, something's misunderstood. And again, at the end of the day, we've got guests on board, and I need to be satisfied that these people can communicate to an acceptable level.
So what would tell you that, apart from just the nationality?
Well, from the photo, nationality, I would look at the blurb. I would see what this person has to say about themselves, but within that is also the grammar, and not only the grammar, but how it's put together. Even just one letter wrong can just put you off. It sounds very hard, but if there's a piece of advice I could recommend, is that if your English is not your mother language, if it's not 100%, get someone to check your CV. Even get someone, a CV specialist, just to look through it, compose it for you, because bad layouts on CVs and bad English will put me off straight away.
Okay, that sounds like good advice. And what else about the layout would put you off?
I would suggest that you try and keep the CV to 2 pages. Don't waffle on. The layout of the CV is very important, that it reads well. Once I've read the blurb, I'd be interested in looking at the person's experience. So I want to be able to easily flow through the CV and read what this person is about and what they've done before in the past. I want to be able to look down and see what boats they've worked on in the past, what size boats these were, and when, for how long. How long have they worked on these boats? So it's important, those 3 bits of information. What were they doing on board? Just a few lines about each one is enough in order for me to easily read through it. If the CV is not laid out in an easy-to-read way, then I just lose interest.
And if they haven't worked on yachts before, obviously it's sort of different for different positions, but so let's start, for example, with a deckhand. What kinds of qualities are you looking for in the CV? What would indicate to you that person might be a good person to take on?
We all start somewhere, and I've docked walked. I've trying to get into the industry. I've walked along and asked for work on the quay. When I look at CVs from people that don't have experience, it doesn't necessarily put me off. I understand that people's past experience can transpose very well into the jobs that they'll be doing on board. So for a deckhand at least, if they're coming for a seasonal position, I would at least like to see that they have made some attempts at getting some experience on board with day working, even if this is just washing down, helping sanding. If someone doesn't know one end of a boat from another, then this to me means that I'm going to have to be spending a long time training. So this is not something I always have the time and resources to do, train people up. So often I'm looking for people that can hit the ground running.
Yeah. Okay, so what about for a stewardess who hadn't worked on boats before?
Okay, for a stewardess, I suppose the same thing applies. If they have day work experience, then this helps because it shows that they've gone out of their way to try and get some hands-on experience. But if I can see someone that's got experience working in hotels or bars or restaurants, then this all helps. They're all skills that that can be transposed onto the job that we do.
Okay, so that gives us a good indication of what you're looking for in terms of what would help you distinguish between whether somebody definitely gets bounced into the no pile. So if they have a poor photograph, if their language skills are not great and their attention to detail hasn't been good in the CV, and if the layout is not clear, those things would all bounce somebody straight into the no pile for you. So assuming that they pass that first round, what's your process then for taking it from there with the maybe pile?
Okay, Alison, so we're left with a pile of CVs which I want more information from these people, so tell me more. Before I move to interview, I want some more information from them, so I would perhaps ask them what their current location is, when they are intending on coming down to France. That's a big one. If they are in a foreign country, if they're coming down in a couple of weeks, then this helps me. Their availability from and to, these things on the CV. I'd also give them an idea of what we're about and how they might fit into this and why I'm talking to them, and ask them if they're interested. At the same time, ask them what it is that they're looking for. If they come back to me and I'm happy with that, then I'll put them in the interview pile. The next thing would be, when can I see you?
Okay, fantastic. And some people check references at this point. Would that be something that you would do?
Not necessarily. Often references are left until the job has been accepted and is conditional that the references are good ones. What I would say is that if these people are a long way away, or if I'm doing telephone interviews, I would ask their permission if I can approach their referees, just to have a chat with them, and then I'd get a better feel for whether this is someone that I want to spend the time either getting over here to interview or travelling to have a closer chat with.
Okay, so it's important that people make sure they notify their referees that they might be getting calls, isn't it? Because there's nothing worse than ringing a reference up and the person doesn't even know that they've been put on someone's CV as a referee.
Definitely. If I call up and ask for a verbal reference over the telephone for a particular crew member, then the worst thing is catching somebody by surprise, or asking who, or getting a response that could be misinterpreted as not wanting to talk about this person.
Yeah, it could come across as a negative. And so what are some of the other kind of almost off the record, if you like, detective tactics that you use to help look a bit further into your candidates?
Okay, well, any background searching that I do on the internet, for example, is not to pry. It's just really to try and see if there's any more information about this person. Because, after all, I've just got a piece of paper in front of me and nothing else. I've got no real sense about what this person is about. And a quick check on Google can often bring up stuff, good and bad. I've had people who I've discovered have done voluntary work, or who have set things up on the internet. Chefs who have got websites and help with nutritional problems and all kinds of things. And all this comes back to me in a very positive light. I do also, I have to say, I do have a cursory look on Facebook to see. It's a filter, I suppose, of a sorts, just to see that these people aren't, if you like, the kind of crew that I would potentially have problems with. And that is simply, if there are shots of endless shots of people getting drunk and that kind of thing, then maybe that might come across in a negative light.
Yeah, so I always advise that people, if they do want to have those photos on their profile, then they make sure that the privacy settings are locked down so that somebody who's searching for you isn't going to be able to see that first thing and get a wrong impression.
Most definitely.
Okay, so any final closing thoughts on CVs and things that are important to you to get across?
Okay, maybe something else I'd look at would be if they're smokers. An issue with working on boats, of course, is that you can't step outside to have a cigarette. Our boat is a non-smoking yacht, so guests that come on board don't smoke, the crew don't smoke. If I've got somebody that's dependent on cigarettes and can't go without one for half an hour, it causes problems and it puts me off.
Yeah. And what if they say non-smoker on their CV, and then when you go and browse on Facebook and you see a picture of them with a cigarette in their hands?
Well, that would just throw doubt on the rest of the CV. If that on the CV is if you like, is incorrect, or dare I suggest a lie, then what else is not true on there, and I'd disregard the CV.
Exactly. I think that's the key thing for people to understand, that it's not that the industry is, crazily anti-smoking, because there actually are a lot of people in the industry that do smoke, but the issue really is more about being truthful, isn't it? So if you are a smoker, I always advise just don't mention it on the CV, but certainly don't put non-smoker, even if you occasionally smoke, because that will just make you look like a liar.
I think with the rest of the things on the CV, honesty is the best policy.
Yeah, because if you ring a reference and check dates or check responsibilities, and that referee tells you that actually no, they weren't doing that, they weren't the chef, they were the dishwasher or something like that, then that's immediately going to put them in the no pile, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah. All right, well, it's been lovely talking to you today. Thank you very much, and good luck with your candidate searching.
Thank you, Alison.